Okay. Um, Hi everyone. Um, it's a privilege to be here today. My name is Iretioluwa Akerele. I have a PhD in information system security. I also have a background in cybersecurity spanning over 10 years now. I have strong expertise in risk management, in governance, and of course in compliance. One of the key things I like to say about myself is my passion, which over time I've tried my best to support people to start a career in cybersecurity. I use my social media platforms to promote cybersecurity, to encourage people to start a career, because I have seen how this field has changed my life and transformed me. And I believe that of course, this can also happen to more people out there. I'm doing this first by community impact with an organization that I co-founded called CybariK. So CybariK is an organization that is targeted towards Blacks, supporting them to achieve their cybersecurity goals. So we do this through community impact, mentorship, career guidance, internships, and of course, cybersecurity training programs. In addition, I'm the director at CybariK Limited, and CybariK is an organization that is focused at supporting both individuals and organizations in terms of achieving their cybersecurity goals too. With this, we run cybersecurity specific programs in CybariK, like the governance, risk, and compliance, which is why you're in this session today to know more about it, and of course, cloud security. Also, we support organizations to achieve compliance to best practice requirements, and of course, other security assessments like vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. I hope that you joining this session today, you'll be able to make the most of it and of course, get lots of value and impact by joining this session. So this evening, I'll be talking about a very interesting topic, which is becoming a GRC analyst in 2025, which I believe is very important. Thank you. Can I proceed? Can I go on? Okay. So starting today, I'll start by talking about governance, risk, and compliance, what it means. When you hear the word governance, when you hear risk, and when you hear compliance, what are the things that comes to your mind? What do you think about, and why is it important in today's world? Starting with governance, governance provides a strategic view of how an organization controls its security. What does that mean? Governance is when you say the word govern from English, it's kind of setting direction, setting the tone from the top, making decisions. Now, when you bring this to the concept of governance, risk, and compliance or cybersecurity, it's about the same thing. When you hear the word governance, what it means is that organizations need to set direction when it comes to their cybersecurity. They need to make certain decisions. They need people at the top who can make those decisions. They need to have key stakeholders that can drive their information security, and that is what governance is about. Moving on to risk. Risk is the potential of exposing a business information and communication system to dangerous actors, elements, or circumstances. Now, when people ask me for a basic definition of risk outside of the English meaning or the English term, I like to say, first give basic examples. Second, I like to tell them that you look at risks from two perspectives: one, probability, and two, impact. What does that mean? What is the probability that this may happen or occur? And when it happens, what is the impact? And that way you're able to know what risk is about. So with risk, at every point in time, you must be able to understand the likelihood and impact of an event occurring. And of course, with compliance, this is the act of adhering to laws, regulations, and guidelines relevant to organization. What does this mean? In today's world, we have lots of organizations trying to comply to different requirements, from best practice requirement like the ISO 27001 to GDPR and so on and so forth. These regulations and requirements are important for these organizations to carry out their day-to-day functions. So as a result of that, we GRC specialists are needed to support these organizations to adhere to these laws and regulations. And this is why compliance is important. What is the GRC role? When you hear about GRC, what comes to your mind? What do you think we are talking about? First thing first is that it is designed to help organizations achieve business objectives. So the GRC role, the work that we do in GRC is to support organizations to achieve their objectives. And when we say their objectives, we are talking about their business in itself. So for example, an organization may say that we want to ensure that within our business, we want to always satisfy our customers. Now, you coming in as a GRC person, you look at that objective, satisfying customers. How can we support from GRC perspective? How can we support from cybersecurity perspective? What would come to your mind first is confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. For a customer to be satisfied, their data must be secured. Their data must be protected. They should be the ones that should have access to their data when they need it, and so on and so forth. So that way, the GRC role is complementing and enabling the business to achieve one of their key objectives, which is customer satisfaction. And that is why we exist within the workplace, to ensure that business objectives are, of course, achieved. Key component, which is governance, risk, and compliance, work together at every point in time to support organizations and, of course, to support the business. So when you see someone working in the GRC space, our work really is to enable the business. I call our role business enabler. So at every point in time, we have to be in the face of the business. We have to understand what the business wants to achieve, so that we also work in that line and support them to achieve that within the organization. Who is a GRC analyst? When you hear someone say, I am a GRC analyst, what do you think they mean? This is someone who can collaborate to support in defining standards and policies. This is someone who can perform security assessment. For example, in the early days of my career, up till now, sometimes I do lots of security assessments. What does that mean? I take a standard or a framework and I look at what is contained in this standard, and I take it into the organization and try to align their key processes, practices, technology, and so on to this standard. I may go to an organization today and begin to ask them questions around their screening processes. Do they carry out background check when they are trying to recruit someone newly into the organization? I look at what the standard is saying, and then I ask what they have in the organization, and that is an assessment. When I see that a gap exists, maybe in that process, possibly they don't have anything in place to screen employees, I point it out to the organization and I give them recommendations on what they need to do to ensure that they fill this gap. So these are some of the things that we do as GRC analysts. We support lots of due diligence processes within the organization. They are bringing a third-party organization on board. We begin to look at that organization. What is a possible risk that may exist in this organization, and what can we do to ensure that we reduce this risk to a bare minimum? So these are some of the things that we do as a GRC analyst. One key thing is that you will work with almost or lots of departments within the organization. So as a GRC person, there's really no hiding place for you. It's not really a case of, I don't like to mix with people. I don't want to communicate. I just want to be on my own. You will be in the face of the business. You would like to understand what the business is doing and how you can support the business to achieve whatever it is they are doing. A GRC analyst is also someone who needs to always stay up to date, because regulations change, standards change, things change in information security. There are a lot of trends that are out there. Good example, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is now in our faces. So as a GRC person, you can't close your eyes to that fact. You need to begin to think about how this affects you, how this affects your organization. So these are some of the key things that is very important for someone who is being called a GRC analyst. So moving on from that, what does it look like a day in the life of a GRC analyst? If you get a job today as a GRC analyst, what do you think you'll be doing? Do you even have any idea of what you possibly will be doing in that organization? What will your key responsibilities look like? It could be policies. I've seen cases where GRC analysts are tasked to review policies, to ensure that policies are up to date, to manage policies, and of course, ensure compliance to these policies. Security awareness and training. I have done a lot of security awareness and training for organizations as a GRC analyst. I have trained people to understand key things around security. I have supported organizations and trained them to understand how they can detect cyber threats, attacks, and so on and so forth. So as a GRC analyst, these are some of the key things that you will be doing in an organization. When you carry out an assessment and you find that gaps exist in a process, one of the key things you will do is to support the organization to implement these gaps. How can we ensure that we reduce risks in our organization by implementing these gaps that exist? These are some of the key functions of a GRC analyst. You can create content as a GRC analyst. You can be someone who likes to blog or put things out there. You can decide to write about key things around GRC interesting facts around GRC and post it out there. That could also be some of the things that you are doing. You can also be a technical writer where you write for organizations and they post those content as a GRC person. Third-party assurance. We are now at an age and time where supply chain risk is now over the roof and is becoming a lot. So a key function of a GRC analyst is to assure the organization that their third parties are putting things in place in terms of security. So I've seen cases where even a job title, GRC analyst, but they tell you that they want someone who is good with analyzing third parties, someone who can understand the risks that exist in third parties and continue to assure the organization. Security assessment and audits. This is how I started my career as a GRC analyst. I started by doing lots of security assessment, and that way you kind of broaden your knowledge because you're able to understand organizations from different contexts. You're able to see organizations from different lenses, and of course, provide ways or solutions that can support them to reduce potential risk. Risk management. I always like to say that risk is at the center of cybersecurity, and everybody should understand the concept of risk. More benefit for a GRC analyst because at every point in time, you will definitely get to interact and understand the risks that exist within the organization. You will have to manage risk. Every time the business is coming that we want this solution or we want that, you will need to understand what the potential risks are and how to support the organization. Management of standards and frameworks. Different standards exist, different frameworks. As a GRC analyst, you will need to manage these standards and frameworks effectively. And of course, vulnerabilities that exist within the organization. And lastly, validating of controls and testing these controls afterwards. You also need to get yourself familiar with different GRC tools that exist. There are lots of GRC tools out there within organizations. Organizations use these tools to achieve their objectives again. It could be vulnerability management tools, it could be risk management tools, it could be GRC assessment tools, and of course, tools that could support to map compliance frameworks and standards. So as a GRC analyst, you need to at some point begin to get yourself familiar with tools in organizations so that you can get the best and value out of being a GRC analyst. And of course, lots of standards and frameworks out there. These standards and frameworks differ based on the country first, and of course, based on the industry. For example, standard organizations in the United States, for example, they are more tilted towards standards and frameworks like the NIST, like the HIPAA, like SOX, and so on and so forth. When you come to the UK, you find organizations tilted towards the ISO 27001, tilted towards the GDPR, tilted towards SOC 2, and so on. So based on country and industry, you find that organizations begin to think about standards and frameworks that they would need to use to achieve best practice. So as a GRC analyst, I always like to say that at a minimum, get yourself familiar with one standard. And if you can do that effectively over time, you'll be able to get yourself familiar with other standards and frameworks that exist. What are the skills required for a GRC analyst? I've read in the past that people say that as a GRC analyst, you don't need to be technical. Your job, your work is the technical skills. What you're doing is the technicality of the job. Yes, you don't need to use tools to break in or to do security assessments. I do my security assessment without using any tool, right? In the sense that all I need is to interview people, to ask the right questions, and I'm able to understand the gaps. However, I still need the technicality of governance, risk, and compliance to be able to achieve that. If I don't understand technical terms, if I don't understand the right questions to ask, I probably will not get the best results out of my assessment. So what are the kind of skills? You need knowledge of the standards and frameworks. ISO 27001, for example, has 4 domains. You have the organizational controls, people controls, physical and technological controls. You need to understand that standard before you can conduct an assessment within an organization. So understanding the standard is the technical skills in itself that you need. You need to be able to understand how to carry out security awareness and training. It's not exactly easy to stand in front of a crowd to talk to people, for example, or maybe do sessions like this. You need to be able to build those skills and gain those skills so that when you are talking, people will want to listen to you and they want to hear what you have to say. Understanding how to develop policies and how people need to comply to policies. Understanding the concept of risk management and vulnerability management are also some technical skills that are important in this field. Getting to understand how to carry out assurance of third parties by conducting risk assessments on third-party organizations is also very key. And then, of course, some very technical skills around incident response. Supporting organizations to respond to incidents is very important within the GRC phase. In fact, I've seen cases where when people go for interviews, one of the common questions they are asked is, how do you support an organization to recover or respond when an incident happens? Can you tell us the step-by-step process of responding to an incident? So as a GRC person, they want to gauge if you understand incident response and what organizations need to do to respond and recover from an incident. And lastly, of course, being able to understand how to manage information security within an organization. Moving on from there, your soft skills. I always like to say that your technical skills can support you to get a job because they will ask you very technical skills in most interviews. But what will keep you on that job is your soft skills. If you don't have good soft skills, you won't stay long on a job. It's just a matter of time. You are going to definitely have to be looking for another job because these are skills that we even need in our day-to-day life to thrive. And then you need to bring these skills to the workplace also. Soft skills like critical thinking. GRC require you to think out of the box. What are the things that you can bring to the table when tight decisions need to be made? How do you think and ensure that you support the organization to solve their problems? Are you able to communicate effectively? It is one thing to communicate. It is another thing to be communicating effectively. As a GRC person, you must be able to communicate properly. When you are communicating technical concepts and you are dealing with a non-technical audience, you have to be able to deliver that message in such a way that they will understand it. And these are some of the skills required of a GRC person. In this field, you must learn and understand how to manage stakeholders. At every point in our career, we manage people within the GRC space. You will speak with leaders, you will speak with your peers, you speak with other people, in the department, in the business, and so on and so forth. You must understand how to manage these people accordingly. And of course, presentation skills, being able to present. Present in the sense that when you need to discuss with an organization that these are the issues, how do you present the issues to them? Do you just dump it in their face, or are you able to explain and break down this concept in such a way that they will understand? You need to learn how to pay attention to details and, of course, manage your time properly and collaborate. So moving on from there, what are the jobs that are required for in the GRC space, or what are the jobs that exist in the GRC space? I like to always start by saying there are so many jobs out there, job titles. So in the GRC space, you are not limited to looking for being a GRC analyst. For example, if you go online, go on the internet, for example, and begin to make your search with any of these keywords here, you will find different GRC jobs. For example, you can decide to search with Business Information Security Officer, can decide to search with Cybersecurity Compliance Officer, can decide to search with Cybersecurity GRC Associate. You can decide to search with Information Security Advisor, Information Security Analyst, Information Security and Compliance Manager, and so on and so forth. And what you will find is that there are jobs that exist in these areas, and you begin to search and look for those jobs. It is very important for you to search with different job titles, different keywords. If you are not sure, you can search with a blanket keyword, which is GRC Analyst. And what you will find is that it's going to bring out all the similar job titles for you. Okay, moving on from that, creating a solid CV. If you are looking for a job, the first thing within the GRC space, of course, which is applicable to most other fields, is that your CV must be solid. I always tell people that your CV is the gateway to get you a job. It's not magic. It's not anything. You need a good CV. If your CV is not good and you're looking for a job in the GRC space, your chances are already reduced. And what does a solid CV mean? You need to be able to show your key skills in your CV. You look at a job description, and they are looking for people with some certain types of skills, and your CV is not reflecting any of those skills, then you know that your CV is not solid enough to apply for that job. You need to describe or show your achievements in your CV, if you have any, relating to the field of GRC. What are your qualifications? And of course, if you have any certifications, you can show them in your CV. Your CV should show the level of experience or the amount of experience that you have. I always like to say that in the GRC field, we welcome a lot of transferable skills and experience. For example, you are coming from an accounting background, you can still do GRC. You don't need to discount that experience from accounting and say that you want to look for an entry level in GRC. Why am I saying this? Because there are some skills that you will bring on board from that accounting background that is relevant in the GRC space. So every experience you have would always count. Your CV, of course, should have your personal information. Put your name. Please do not put your address on your CV. You can decide to put your location or city or whatever it is. For example, if you're in the United Kingdom, maybe if you're living in a particular city, maybe London, for example, instead of putting your exact address and postcode, if you've been doing that previously, please remove it and just put London in your CV. If you want to make it quite broad so that you can apply to anywhere, you can then leave it as United Kingdom. But again, sometimes hiring managers or recruiters are particular about the location before they give you the job so that they know if you'll be able to do it or not based on location, right? So those are important things. Put your email. Please ensure that at least you have your email on your CV so that they can contact you if they need to reach you for further information or interviews. Additionally, if you want to put your LinkedIn, you can also include your profile in your CV. Please have a professional summary in your CV. This is very key. Your CV should carry a summary or a profile that summarizes everything about you. It could be 5 lines or 6 lines. It doesn't have to be a lot. Saying your exact skills that you have and what you are looking to have or achieve or attain or anything like that. But the professional summary must be clear and it must be the first thing in your CV. Remember, your CV must be aligned to the job. For example, a job is being posted, information security analyst, and in that job, they are looking for someone who has strength in the ISO 27001 standard, and that is not in your CV, and you apply for that job. It is not magic. They're not going to call you for an interview. It is not magic. If you think it's magic and somebody will just wake up and call you, they will not call you. And I'm saying this with all confidence because I know that for every job you see out there today, a minimum number of applicants that are probably applying for that same job will be like 100. So what is setting you apart? What is standing you out to get an interview invite? Your CV is the first step. I'm going to show now what a sample CV looks like. Like I said, have a professional summary. State your skills. What are the skills that you have? What is your work history? Where have you worked previously? And what have you done in those roles where you've worked? This needs to be clearly stated in your CV. What is your experience like? These are just sample CVs that you can always look at and think about. But the key thing is that your CV must first in itself, outside of your personal information, carry a summary about you. And that summary should reflect on some of your skills that you definitely touch on your CV. So moving on from that, creating a solid LinkedIn profile. I've seen people who have gotten jobs from LinkedIn. Some people say, oh, it's not, they don't like to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn feels like you're always shouting or something, or LinkedIn feels like you have to always have a presence. It doesn't have to be that, but of course, if you have some things that you are doing on LinkedIn that you want to showcase or show out there, it is a way to do that. So why don't you want to just create a solid LinkedIn profile? First thing is to have a professional picture and compelling headline. If you have a LinkedIn profile and there's no picture there, even if the person feels like you are the best person for that job, they may not even contact you because why are they speaking to a faceless person? So first thing first is that please have a professional picture and of course headline on your profile. Headline could be if you're a GRC analyst, maybe based on some of the things that you've done, you can have it in your LinkedIn profile. Or if there's anything else related to InfoSec, you can also have that in your LinkedIn profile. The next thing is to also have like an engaging summary about yourself. Sum up your career journey, achievements, aspirations, anything it is that you want to say. Again, keywords. In GRC, the number one keyword in GRC is risk management. So your LinkedIn profile should show something like risk management, at least at a bare minimum, to show that you have skills or specialty in that aspect. Please showcase your skills. People have gotten jobs from LinkedIn. Recruiters have reached out to people on LinkedIn. We like your skills. We would like to call you for an interview. We see it in this industry and it will continue to happen. So why don't you want to put your skills there on your profile? Actively engage on LinkedIn. Share your learnings, share your achievements. Continue to improve. I have also personally gotten opportunities from LinkedIn just by engaging, reposting people's content, liking people's content. It doesn't take anything from anyone to do that, to engage other people's posts. And of course, those people can also engage your post. I've seen cases where people have been able to build their follower base on LinkedIn just by actively engaging other similar posts that are being posted there. Create a solid LinkedIn profile. It is possible to get jobs from LinkedIn. I can't count the number of people who have spoken to me that they got their jobs through LinkedIn. Someone even told me that his own case, he started by sending a cold email to that organization, to someone in that organization, indicating his interest to work there. And that was how that led to an interview, and he's working there till date. Okay, moving on from that, this is my own LinkedIn profile. As my name, of course, as headings about me, and then as keywords around GRC. In my about, I'm able to demonstrate some of my strengths in GRC in my LinkedIn profile. There's no beating about the bush. The things that you have strength in and the things that you can do, please indicate this in your LinkedIn profile. These are some of the things that will sell you. I always tell people that except somebody recommends you for a job, which I have done, some people have come to me to say that I need someone with these skills. Can you recommend? I do that from time to time. And even when I do that, they will still go through the interview process before they get the job. But except that is the case, your first step of getting a job is your outlook. And what is your outlook? Your outlook is your CV. Your outlook is your profile. That's the first thing the recruiter will see. That's the first thing the hiring manager will see before anything else. Before they call you for an interview and begin to judge that you are sounding confident or you are the right fit for the job, the first thing they will see is your CV and your profile. And if it doesn't look convincing to them, even if you are, if you are the kind of person that has very good English, you can convince them, you are technically sound, you have your soft skills, but if your CV is messed up, you don't stand a chance. So the first step is to make your CV look good for a job opportunity. Make your LinkedIn profile look good. Post on your LinkedIn. Engage. People have said, I'm always shy to post on LinkedIn. Sometimes I don't even know what to post. What's the right thing to post on LinkedIn? It could just be something you read somewhere. Maybe you read an article somewhere and you have an opinion about it. You can just put that into writing and post it on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be anything serious. You can post anything at any time on LinkedIn. Initially, so I wasn't the LinkedIn person as such. Even all through my PhD time, I struggled to post on LinkedIn and I could not build a good number of following because I wasn't posting and I wasn't engaging. I was too busy to even think about LinkedIn, first of all. Secondly, when I had the time to post about LinkedIn, I'm always worried about, so this LinkedIn, was it? I didn't really like it at first. But later on, when I finished my PhD and I had the time, I now started to think about, okay, I can also build my own LinkedIn profile, to a very good point. I started this year with about 6,000 followers on LinkedIn. I'm currently at over 25,000 just by actively posting, actively engaging other posts and all of that. So you can build a very good profile on LinkedIn for yourself. Moving on from that, I'm just going to just spend some time talking about CybariK. CybariK is, like I said when I started, we support organizations to improve their security posture. And of course, we provide cybersecurity trainings to individuals. Currently, we have a very good success rate of people who have joined our trainings and have secured opportunities. In some cases, some of these people secured these opportunities through CybariK. And in some other cases, these people went ahead to apply for jobs and they got it. So these are testimonies that we've seen in CybariK. Why us? One, we have integrity. The thing about CybariK is that is what we say we'll do that we'll do. We keep to our promise. So we say we're going to deliver on something, that is what we'll deliver. We are excellent at what we do. We are committed. Excellent even in the sense that when people come and join our trainings, we still have like a robust alumni community that we use to support them post-training. So it's not a case of join our training and then leave. You join our training, you still get support after the training. And of course, any kind of support, you need support with your CVs, support with interviews, and so on and so forth. We provide that. I'm going to go quickly to what are the benefits of joining our CybariK GRC Academy. Currently, registration is on for this GRC Academy, and there's lots of benefits for joining. One is you're going to be trained by industry professionals, not just one person, not two people, not three people. So you're going to get a feel of different people who have expertise in GRC, and they're going to come teach you governance, risk, and compliance from these perspectives. You're going to have the opportunity to work on hands-on tasks. You will definitely be creating policies. You'll definitely be checking compliance to policies. You'll be doing some tasks on information security based on the ISO standard and so on and so forth. These are some of the things that we bring on board by joining our training. We'll definitely prepare you for interviews. When you have interviews, we always encourage that you come to us, and we're definitely going to support you to prepare and do our best for you to even be able to compete to get the job. We review CVs, we look at CVs. So if you feel like your CVs are not good enough, within CybariK, we look at these CVs and we see how to support you on them to make it better. We also have like a monthly knowledge sharing sessions where people from the alumni community come to share their knowledge on different aspects of cybersecurity and of course GRC. So that way, people continue to stay up to date even after joining our training sessions. And of course, like I said, we have alumni community support. The support with CybariK does not end when the training ends. The support continues with us. So it means that until you get to a point that you say that, okay, thank you, CybariK, we no longer need you, then that's fine. But CybariK is not the organization that will part ways with a comfortable point. And of course, you have unlimited access to all our trainers. Any trainer you feel like reaching out to, they will definitely respond to you. And lastly, we provide career guidance. At every step of your journey, we offer that support in your career. We provide things that will support you to get to the next level in your career. If you have any challenge, if you have any doubts, you can always reach out to us and we give and provide this guidance to you at every point. How do you join our GRC Academy? First step is to visit our website, www.cybarik.com. You click on training and then you go to courses. When you get to courses, you see governance, risk, and compliance, and then you click on no more. So when you click on no more, you see a registration form. You fill that registration form and complete it. We are going to definitely send you an email within 3 working days. Because this is Christmas season, responses are quite slow because, of course, we are also taking the holidays that are public holidays. So you may not get that fast response. But one thing is certain, that we will eventually get a response from CybariK. And that's it for today. If you want to connect with me, these are the social media platforms that I have presence in. That's my LinkedIn. I'm also very active on X. I'm active on Instagram and of course TikTok. And I have a website. You can also reach out to me on my website. So that's it for me for today. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much for that. But I've got some questions. Could you kindly run us through? So let's say your 9 to 5 activities. I know that you've done a very brief run through. What do you do from when you go into the office in the morning till when you leave in the evening? I understand that that no 2 days are the same, but please just give us a run through what you could call one day in the week that explain to us what you could spend a day doing. Thank you.
Okay, that's a good question. I touched on that earlier, but I'll definitely do that again. 9 to 5, no 2 days are the same. That's the first thing, as a GRC analyst. However, these are samples of the things that you can face as a GRC analyst in an organization. The organization may have a set of policies, and they want the GRC analyst to ensure that these policies are in line with best practice requirements like the ISO standard, for example, like the NIST cybersecurity framework and so on. So for example, you can pick a policy called an identity and access management policy. That's an example. So looking at that policy, your role as a GRC analyst is to ensure that that policy is adequate. Adequate in the sense that the ISO standard requires the policy to at least contain some certain things. So you are checking that for adequacy, that policy is adequate. That's the first thing. You are also ensuring that the relevant stakeholders who owns that policy are performing reviews on those policies as and when they are due for review. And the third thing is that you are ensuring that people are compliant to the policies. So when you're talking about identity and access management, for example, maybe access is given based on least privilege. Your role as a GRC analyst is to ensure compliance to that policy. Are they giving access based on least privilege? Or is there any other way by which they are giving access in the organization? So that is something, one of the key things that you may do as a GRC analyst. It may not be an everyday function, but as that when required, you will need to do that. So it's also a case of you being able to plan your time and prioritizing your activities. Second thing is that I talked about the security awareness and training. As a GRC analyst, you must be confident enough to talk about cybersecurity. You must be able to teach cybersecurity. You must be able to train people on cybersecurity. And how can you achieve that? Maybe just start by even talking to your friends and tell them the do's and don'ts. We already know some basic do's and don'ts. Don't share your password. Don't post your account number because you are looking for giveaway. Don't post your house address on social media. Don't post the name of your church on Instagram. Don't post your company name on LinkedIn or on Instagram or things like that. You already know the don'ts and some of these don'ts and why you should not do it. So why not just stand in front of your friends and tell them these don'ts and build this confidence? And from there, you are able to also teach and train other people, because as a GRC analyst, you must be able to deliver security awareness and training from time to time. I talked about implementation of gaps, implementing gaps. Sometimes in organizations, even in my own organizations, we find some issues based on assessment. And then we come to say that these are the issues we have found. How can we fix these issues? Again, this is not every day, but this is as it arises or as it occurs. And then we begin to look for ways to fix those issues based on best practice. We look at best practice requirements. What is best practice saying? Okay, best practice is saying that the organization needs to have an access control policy. The organization needs to ensure that they give access based on a least privilege principle. The organization needs to ensure that they review access on a periodic basis. So we pick all of that and we look at who should be responsible for implementing this, and we begin to speak with them as a GRC person. So bear in mind that when we say implementing gaps, it doesn't mean that every day you are the person that will be implementing those gaps. It means that you should be able to identify the people who would fix those gaps and working with them and supporting them to ensure that they are fixed in line with when it should be fixed. Again, I've talked about third-party assurance from time to time. So the way the GRC function works is that most of the key responsibilities are not like on a daily basis, but it is as required. So that is why the key thing for you is to be able to prioritize. Have priority for your task and understand when you need to deliver what. So that with that, you are able to plan and ensure that you have proper planning and focus on what you need to do. So third-party assurance, when we need to do this, ensure that it is carried out. When we need to do security assessment, for example, I always advise that when you start a job, a GRC job in an organization newly, the first thing you should be doing is a security assessment. Why? Because you probably will not have visibility into a lot of things. But when you carry out an assessment, you begin to see. It's just like when you are not feeling well and you go to the hospital. The first thing the doctor will do is not to give you drugs. I don't think there's anyone that will get to the hospital. You've not said what your issues are. The doctor has said, go and use paracetamol. No, they'll first assess you. When they assess you and you say, maybe every day you have this slight headache, you have this cold and all of that, then they can begin to say, based on the assessments, you can take maybe paracetamol, you can take this in combination with that, and maybe take a cough drug and so on. And that is the implementation. They have given you recommendations that you need to implement. So the moment you now begin to take the drugs, you are implementing those recommendations they gave you. Exactly the same thing in GRC. First thing is to assess the organization. Where is the gap? What is the gaps that exist in this organization? So your first thing first when you start a new role as a GRC person is to do the assessments. And when you do that, you are now able to recommend to the organization that based on what we have found, you need to do ABC. And then when they take those recommendations and implement it, just like I said, when you start to use the drugs, well, so when you implement it in the organization, then you now see the changes. So when you use the drugs, for example, you now see that you're not getting better. the headache is gone, the code is gone. The same thing in the organization. So when you now support the organization to implement those gaps, you now see the changes, that their security posture is now improved. So that's another key area for a GRC analyst. You manage vulnerabilities. As vulnerabilities exist in organizations, as the technical guys, the pen tester and so on, begin to see vulnerabilities, they pass it to you and they expect that you're able to manage those vulnerabilities effectively. So when those vulnerabilities exist, again, you go back and communicate and collaborate with stakeholders. So in all of the things I've said, your key thing to note is that you must be able to collaborate with stakeholders. Why? Because as a GRC person, you are definitely not going to be working alone. I've not seen anyone work in a GRC function that has said to me that they are working alone. It's not possible. So you must have that confidence to work with other people. You must be able to even follow up with people. When people are assigned things to do, having that confidence and courage to follow up with people is a very key skill of a GRC person. So I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Yes, thank you. You have, and you touched on a question that I had in terms of prioritizing things. How do you actually prioritize your day, considering the variety of responsibilities here that you've just listed? How do you personally prioritize your day?
So in terms of priority, what I always advise is one, what are we, again, remember, let me take a step back first. First thing to notice, a GRC person is trying to support organizations to achieve objectives. Now, objectives in this sense is business objectives, because every organization, the key thing for them is they want to meet an objective for the business. Yes, cybersecurity is nice, but if they were set up, for example, a bank is set up. Why? Because they want to satisfy their customers. If you're in this call today now and you get a text that 20,000 pounds is missing from your account, you will end this call and go and fix your account. So a bank wants to satisfy everybody, all of us who are their customers at every point in time. Now, how do you support that objective as a GRC analyst? Is by ensuring that everything they need to satisfy customers is always available from InfoSec perspective. So now, how do you prioritize? You prioritize in the sense that one, what are you supporting the business with to achieve? That's first thing. You prioritize. Two, what are the key deadlines in terms of your task? So for example, I talked about policy review. If you need to review policy, say every December, for example, and you are in December, you already know that is going to take priority. So meeting all the stakeholders and letting them know that this policy is due for review at this particular time is now your priority for December. If you have a calendar saying that your security awareness and training should be done every quarter, so it means that March, you need to conduct security awareness and training for employees of the organization. June, you conduct another one. By September, you should have conducted another one. So prioritizing as a GRC person has to do with the timeline that has been set for each task. That's one. Two, there are some tasks that doesn't have like set timelines. It's as you go. For example, within the year, maybe business has introduced a new solution, maybe application also. Now, that has just come as you are working on other things. Now, how do you now prioritize that? You need to know that maybe before the go live or so, there has to be some level of assessment, like risk assessment, security testing, and so on, that should have been conducted on such applications. So it will not, that has to be put on high priority, and that may make you place a hold or reduce efforts on other tasks that you need to do. So the key thing for you to know as a GRC person is that different task, different priority. Most important thing is business objective. Ensuring that everything you are doing at the end of the day is still tied to helping the business to achieve its objective.
Thank you so much for answering that. That's really comprehensive response. Now, you mentioned earlier about the fact that some organizations in the US, for example, most organizations in the US actually would use frameworks such as SOX and NIST and CIS and HIPAA as well. And then you also talked about the fact that the UK prefers ISO 27001. What about our delegates who are here today or who may listen to this recording later, who work in countries in Africa, for example, where there are these international companies such as the big four, any of the big four essentially, and international banks? Which standards would you like them to, which standards would you advise those delegates to actually go and familiarize themselves with? I know you said that they should familiarize themselves, or that you advise people to familiarize themselves with one. But for somebody in Africa, for example, that's trying to get into one of the big four companies or into one of the international banks, which standard would you recommend that they actually go and study up on?
Okay, that's a good question. So my go-to standard for anyone, irrespective of your country, location, and so on, is the ISO 27001. Why? This standard, let me just bring it up on my screen. Why? The ISO 27001. Why do I always recommend this standard? Because it is an internationally recognized standard. It doesn't really matter your country, your location, the size of organization, the type of organization. This standard is applicable in every instance, in every organization. As a matter of fact, a lot of organizations in Africa, for example, Nigeria, are trying to either get certified to this standard or already certified to this standard. One, maybe based on regulation. Example, the banks in Nigeria are mandated by regulation to be certified to the ISO 27001 standard. So if you're looking to work in a bank as a GRC analyst in Nigeria, getting yourself familiar with this standard will be like a good starting point. If you want to work in a big four like the Deloitte, EY, and so on, also getting yourself familiar with this standard will be a good starting point, because these big fours also support financial institutions and other regulated industries. And most of the time, most of these organizations are mandated to comply to the ISO 27001 standard.
Thank you so much. I agree with you over all of these. And in terms of privacy, so I know you've talked about all of these frameworks and standards, and the one that really stands out, that is separate here, is the GDPR, which is a privacy standard. So would you advise people listening to this video or this session to also familiarize themselves with the GDPR from a privacy perspective solely, in addition to ISO 27001 or other standards? And as you've said, you've introduced us to what your company does. Would your company also be able to help people with regards to GDPR knowledge as well?
Yes, so that's a good question. Yes, so getting yourself familiar with GDPR, my answer to that is yes. And why? We're now at an age and time where you hear people say data is gold. That's the first thing. Two, people no longer find it funny if their data is breached or compromised or lost or leaked and so on and so forth. So GDPR is a regulation that is now topping. People who have the knowledge now they come on top when it comes to GDPR. They can work in as an information governance or data privacy, data protection, and so on and so forth in those spaces. So having skill set and understanding GDPR, I think is a plus. Yes, and of course, my company also, as part of the training that we offer, GDPR is one of the topic areas that we cover. So I mean, if there are people who are looking to join the training, you'll definitely get some knowledge on GDPR and what it means. But most importantly, GDPR is a regulation that is now key. A lot of organizations, I mean, now being able to understand that the data we're even collecting, we need to collect at most the minimum data that we need per time. Unlike before, when you see cases where people just put forms out there and even the data they don't need, they are requesting for it. But now taking responsibility for that shows that there's a regulation in place that is shouting that data must be protected at all times. whether data that is being stored, data that is being processed or in transit, data that is no longer in use, and so on and so forth. So understanding that is very important, and having that knowledge, I mean, in terms of being a GRC analyst, is puts you at an advantage, and of course helps you to get some opportunities within some organizations.
Thank you. And before I ask any further questions, has anyone got any question? I know that I can see in the chat a question about the training sessions, about the days, specific days of the week. And I believe that Dr. Ireti has actually put in at the end of the slides how you can reach out to, let me just see, yeah, to CybariK, how you can reach out to CybariK and to start those discussions with CybariK. So just to be clear, CybariK is a professional entity which is led by Dr. Ireti, I believe, and potentially a colleague. And it's important that, please, that if you want to actually avail yourself to that training, that you make sure that you visit the website, click on the training, go to the courses, and click on know more. So the ladder back down does not claim any money from any CEO or any entity that we collaborate with. So I'm not actually asking you to avail yourself of this opportunity because I'm going to claim a bonus or any benefit or a percentage or anything like that. So I'm simply running the ladder back down, but I am passionate in bringing people like Dr. Ireti to your notice because I've heard of what she does. I've heard of how effective she is. I'm not on X, that is formerly Twitter. I'm not on there, but I've heard of her impact on X. And so again, please make sure that you just go to cybarik.com and click on know more and then start your discussions with Dr. Ireti. And I'm absolutely certain from the testimonies that I've heard of other people, including members of the ladder back down, that working with her to progress your career will place you at an advantage in the market if GRC is what you want to do. So please make sure that you avail yourself to this information. You may want to take a screenshot of this last slide, although at the end of the day, you will receive a link to this presentation once it's been uploaded. Now, please, Dr. Ireti, there's another question for you here. Any single online repository where one can access all the standards or frameworks? I know the answer to that, but I'll let you answer that. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a good question. I'm not sure there's a single online repository. Most of these standards you are actually like licensed, meaning that you have to pay to purchase it. And let me use the ISO standard as an example. When you pay to purchase an ISO standard, right, it's going to be licensed to the organization name that you imputed when you were purchasing it. And then it means that it should be for that organization, in the sense that it's not expected that you should share or reproduce and so on and so forth. So that's for the ISO standard. For some other standards, you may find them online. I think the PCI DSS, for as an example, I think you should be able to find a self-assessment questionnaire of that online. So if you go online and you put PCI DSS self-assessment questionnaire PDF, something like that, I think you should be able to find that online. So each standard is based on whatever they have decided to do. Are there free copies that are available online, or do you need to purchase them? I think for the NIST also, you may also find a copy online, or maybe some other people have uploaded it online and so on. But again, it depends on what has been agreed on whether this standard should be publicly available or not. So I know for the ISO 27001, it is not publicly available online. You have to purchase your copy. To have a copy of those standards, you have to purchase your own copy.
Okay, someone's asked, what does a newbie need to know about GRC? Well, again, I'll take that. You've had this very brief introduction here, but if you'd like to find out more, then again, visit the cybarik.com website and then just request for that information from CybariK in terms of what a newbie might need to know about GRC. And someone's asked about the training costs. Again, please avail yourself to that to visit that website so that you can find out more. Someone's asked, is there a discount for us on this masterclass if we join the upcoming training from I think that they're asking if they've come through this workshop to access the training. Again, that's something that you'd need to discuss with CybariK and Dr. Akerele. But any questions, please, about what you do as a GRC analyst? But maybe you may want to take that question, Dr. Ireti, that what does a newbie need to know about GRC? Maybe you want to fill in, with some responses there.
Okay, so I've already responded to that again. So, but my last advice on that is please go check me out on X. My handle is on the screen, Ireti on X, and on my pinned post, I have a couple of posts relating to GRC that will definitely guide you as a newbie. In addition to that, if you join CybariK GRC Academy, it doesn't really matter the field they are coming from, maybe tech or non-tech. We take you through we give you like the knowledge that you need to even know for a start as a GRC analyst. And that knowledge is something that we would equip you with, and you can take that knowledge to you anywhere. And also someone joined our training. She came from an economics background. She's resuming her new role in January as an IT security analyst. This is someone who had zero experience, one in tech, two in governance, risk, and compliance. She had a BSc in economics, no IT, nothing. And she joined the training. And the day she came to us for an interview prep, and when I was asking her some questions, and the way she was rapping on risk management, my response to her was that I'm finding it hard to believe that you are from an economics background. So these are some of the things that newbies would benefit by joining our training. It doesn't matter. The most important thing we need from you is your willingness to commit to that training, because you are going to pay for it. So by paying for it, you need to commit to it and get the benefits of what you have paid for. And if you are able to do that, the rest is history. One, you will gain knowledge. Two, if you want to take it further by searching for jobs and getting a job, then there's a possibility. One thing I will not do is to promise that you will get a job. There are so many factors. First factor is if you don't apply, you may not get a job. So, but if you are willing and ready to get a job, it is possible to get a job. Even though I will never promise that you get a job, but if you want to get a GRC job, the possibilities are endless. And again, it doesn't matter your location. It could be Nigeria, could be US, UK, anywhere whatsoever. It doesn't matter. Most important thing is that, are you ready to take that step in your career? And for me, if you ask me, I always say that it's worth it. It is something that you will look back in many years' time and be happy that you had gotten into the field.
Thank you for that. And the questions are coming thick and fast now. So I'll just take one before I ask Mary Blessing to please speak, because you've raised up your hand. So you may want to please be very brief if you're going to ask that question. But I'll just repeat another question. So this is a second person that has asked the question, will the training be discounted for today's participants? That's something that you need to discuss with Dr. Ireti. As I said, so just put it across to her. I haven't reached any arrangement regarding discounts or regarding anything at all. So that's something that you need to definitely take up with her when you reach out to her. Just say that you were a participant today and ask that question. Before I ask the second question here, could Mary Blessing please ask your question since you've raised your hand?
All right. Good evening, Dr. Ireti. Thank you very much to Ladder Backdown for this opportunity. So my question is, she mentioned something about building a profile on LinkedIn. So for someone who is just starting out in this field, I know most of us are just trying to like have a niche now. If I'm to build my profile on LinkedIn regarding GRC, because there are no the materials on GRC are not very practical. Like maybe if you are going in the SOC part where you have labs to post on LinkedIn so people can see what you're working on. So what do you really post on LinkedIn? Is it just what you read or what you study about the framework? What do you post on your profile on LinkedIn so people can see, okay, this person is in the GRC part, so you can employers can when you apply for jobs, they can come check out your profile and say, okay, she really knows something about this. So what do you do? What practical things can you post on LinkedIn so they'll know that you have the hands-on skill to really work in as a GRC analyst? Thank you.
Okay, that's a very good question. What profile do you build? I mean, someone doing SOC can post their labs and so on. GRC is a very versatile field, and there are lots of things you can post on LinkedIn. For example, you have conducted a risk assessment. You have identified risks for an organization, right? You have recommended some ways by which they can reduce these risks. This is something that you've done. You can post about it to say, I conducted a risk assessment. I looked at the following key risks, for example. These are some of the key things I recommended for the organization, you know, and all of that. Those are your thoughts about that. You have created policies, created an information security policy, created an acceptable use policy, created an information classification policy. You can post it. Maybe even one of the policies, maybe an information classification policy. Some people don't understand information classification. You can even post your thoughts about it and say, recently I had an opportunity to work on an information classification policy. Here are my thoughts on some of the key components of the policy: confidential information, information for internal use, restricted information, information for public use. These are, you know, carve your thoughts out of it and then open it up for people to comment and all of that and different reactions. And that way, you begin to build your profile on LinkedIn. Also connect with other people who are in the GRC space and see what they are posting. Other things you can post are some of the courses that you are doing while building your profile, because when you put maybe risk management in your profile, for example, you want to be able to show that you have at least you've built some skills. So maybe you're taking some courses, some free, some paid. You can also post them on LinkedIn, post your badge, post your certificate, and any other thing you want to post that just to show that you're equipping yourself. So the possibilities of whatever it is you can post on LinkedIn is endless. Continue to engage other people, comment on other people's posts, showcase your own skills, whatever it is that you are building currently, what you are working on. Maybe you have been opportune to, you joined the training and you've been opportune to work on an incident response task, for example. What are the key things that you learned that has now added to your knowledge on responding to incidents? You can put that into a summary and post it on LinkedIn. So these are some of the key things that you can do to continue to build a solid LinkedIn profile.
Thank you so much for that answer. And could I also add, because that's something so important. We try to encourage people on in the Telegram community to keep engaging with the LinkedIn. Even if you ask somebody like Dr. Ireti a question about a post, you're enhancing your profile on LinkedIn just by asking a question, as long as it's a constructive question. If you like Dr. Ireti's post, you're doing something constructive that a recruiter might notice. So it's not just about posting, it's about engaging with other people's posts, liking other people's posts. And then there's also a need to ensure that if you're posting something about what you've just done in your workplace, I'd advise us to ensure that we retain the confidentiality of our organization. So rather than break down all the risks or the issues that you identified whilst developing that policy, you can simply say something such as information classification policy completed. Thank goodness. That's enough to show somebody that you've just actually completed an information classification policy, rather than you trying to explain exactly what you did in that policy or what you included in that policy. It's just to enhance your profile, so you don't have to be too clever. I often say to people studying as well, that if there's something that really jumps out to you when you're studying for an exam, or something occurs to you when you're studying, post that on your profile. You can post it as a comment or as a question, and simply end it. If you're posting it as a question, you can say, what do you think? Just to build up that engagement. And if you're in the community, we have got a LinkedIn linked up group, a group within the Ladder Back Down community. And I keep hammering on over the fact that it's so important that you engage with other people's posts, that you like other people's posts, because that is increasing your profile. If you look on the first page that you log into, the front page of the community, if you read up about 20 posts or so above today's date, you'll find a post of somebody that wrote on LinkedIn that this is how they hire. The only way that they hire from LinkedIn is to go and look at people who are active on LinkedIn. So as soon as Dr. Ireti spoke about creating a solid LinkedIn profile, I just smiled. And engaging, make sure that you engage, rather than Facebook or Instagram. Well, you could say in addition to Facebook and Instagram, but the most important thing is that LinkedIn is a business, it's a professional social media environment. So make sure that you use that platform until you get what you want to get, until you get into that GRC role. So if you enroll for CybariK's workshops, make sure that you don't just study, but I'm sure that you've got the right mentor in Dr. Ireti to show you how important it is to make sure that you increase your visibility. And don't be scared, as she's just said, don't be scared. Don't be scared that maybe 1 or 2 people only may like your post. Don't be scared that nobody will like your post. Keep posting until you build up your knowledge. Keep posting until you build up that audience. Keep posting until recruiters start noticing you. Even if it's something that you've learned today, post it, summarize it, post it, and don't worry if nobody notices it. Share it in the community, in the Telegram community, but just keep posting, don't stop. Don't stop, because it's not as important that your friends that you know actually like your post. It's more important that crucial people that can get you that job or that can get you that promotion, it's more important that they actually notice. And they can't notice your profile if you're not visible. So thank you for that answer, Dr. Ireti. Somebody's asked a question, very important question here. How does a GRC analyst differ from a cybersecurity analyst?
Okay, that's a good question. So the difference, or let me say, you can pick those differences from when you see job descriptions. And what does that mean? If you look at a cybersecurity analyst job, for example, they may include some specific technicalities in that role, maybe use of tools, technical tools for the SOC, for example, or technical tools for pen tests, or your ability to script, your ability to be familiar with some programming languages, and so on and so forth. But if you look at a GRC analyst job role, what you find there is some of the things I've talked about today, things around policies, things around awareness and training, things around risk management, things around vulnerability management, things around third-party assurance, and so on. So the difference in itself is the technicality of the job. but you can find that in more details when you check job descriptions. All you have to do is to go online, check, just make a search for GRC analyst jobs, and then make a search for cybersecurity analyst jobs. You understand what I'm saying? The technicality in both roles are different. One is more technical than the other. The cybersecurity analyst role requires you to be a little bit more technical than the GRC analyst role.
Sorry. Thank you so much. Any further questions from anyone, please? Someone's just asked about what qualifies one to join the, before I take the next question that someone's just posted, what qualifies one to join the Ladder Back Down Telegram community? So I'm posting the link here. And so again, just to make it clear, the Ladder Back Down, all of our services are free. So you join the community, you can ring for mentorship, you can ring for anything that you'd like to discuss professionally through a link to our website, which is theladderbackdown.com. But we are not GRC trainers or coaches or mentors. So you need to still talk to CybariK for that. That's a separate entity to the Ladder Back Down. So I'm posting the link to the Telegram community. It's free to join and it will always be free to join. Make sure you switch to topics view as soon as you join us. Thank you. So the next question here is from Martina saying, I'm an information security policy and standard analyst in a bank. Recently, I think HR asked us to choose a certification course and a non-certificate based training. Could you please give me any suggestions? And can the academy be one of them? So that's the question to you.
A certification course and a non-certification training. Is that the question? So HR asked you to choose, is it choose between both?
Hello. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
Yeah, it's to choose two. Yes, a certification based course and a non-certification. Yeah.
Were you given
So we're
option?
asked to choose. Yes, we're asked to choose, yeah, the two.
Were you given
Yeah.
any option?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I said, were you given any option in terms
No.
of like a list of courses that they told you to choose from, or you have to go
No.
and opt it?
Yes. We were not given any option, so we have to choose whatever that aligns with our role. So we are not given any option, no.
Okay. So non-certification, I know of Policy Wizard so you can check on LinkedIn, check for Policy Wizard. It's a very good security policy course that you can share with HR, and I don't think it's expensive in terms of the price. I think it's fair. So that can also help you since your role is in line with policies. Second, the certification course, I would suggest the ISO 27001 because I think I hear you say policy and standards, and of course, ISO again is an internationally acceptable standard, and there are lots of policies that are required to be developed if you need an organization to comply to the ISO standard. I think over 30 to 40 policies thereabouts. So being certified to the ISO standard would also boost your knowledge more around policies, one, and of course, in terms of complying to best practice standards.
Thank you so much. Has that answered your question, please?
Yes, it has. But just that the ISO 27001 has already been booked for us. So I don't know if there's any other one she can suggest for me. So that one is already booked for us. So yes.
Okay, that's already booked for you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you.
Okay. So other certifications that you can take in the GRC space, I don't know if you've heard of Certified Information Security Manager, that's CISM. That's also a very good certification that you can take. I think the CISM requires level of experience anyway, but you can always check that. I think it's 3 to 5 years experience. They always advise that because most times when you attempt the questions is in line with people who have experiences. Other certifications are C-Risk, CISA. Those are other kind of certifications you can also take within the GRC space, which are not exactly like standard specific, like the ISO 27001. So if you're looking to grow further in the GRC field, these are certifications that you can think about. CISM is very good. And of course, when you begin to get to mid-senior opportunities, CISM is a good certification that most hiring managers also look out for, or the C-Risk certification, or CISA if you're interested in audit side of things. So those are other certifications that you can also think about and consider.
Thank you for answering that. And I just would like to just bring to everyone's attention, in addition to what Dr. Iretioluwa has just said, that it's important that if we haven't sat the free Certified in Cybersecurity exam, that we each seize that opportunity. So CC, it's called CC, it's from the ISC squared, ISC2, Certified in Cybersecurity exam, free for everyone to take. First attempt is free, and then you pay $50 per year to maintain it for your CPEs, because that shows to every single employer out there that at least that this person is interested in a career in information security or GRC. Now, as Dr. Iretioluwa said, we've got the C-Risk exam, which is Certified in Risk and Information Systems Controls. That is by ISACA, a major certification body. That one is also backed up by CISA for the auditors, or the CISM for the information security managers. So you could do any of those three. But one of the things that I found, particularly in the UK, is that not that many people actually attempt the C-Risk. They're each of equal value, dependent on your area of interest, but the C-Risk, not that many people actually hold that certification compared to the CISM, CISM, or the CISA, which is specific to auditors. So do consider where you want your career to actually develop towards. And one thing that Dr. Iretioluwa said, which you didn't actually emphasize on, but I totally agree with you. One advice that I give to everybody is that whatever you do, whether you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, whatever you are, the one skill that you need to go and develop for 2025 is in artificial intelligence. That is so important, because rather than sit and join the number of people that are saying AI is taking my job, try and find out how you can use artificial intelligence to do your job, to do your existing job. So go onto YouTube and learn about GRC tools, AI GRC tools. If you're a lawyer, go and learn about legal GRC tools. There are some free exams with Microsoft that you can do, or maybe it's $50 now, that you can do after a workshop with them for their AI tools. Then there are also other free exams that you can do, I mean, with training. So please make sure that whatever you do, you take on board artificial intelligence. There's a free artificial intelligence security risk and governance sort of exam out there, run by a company called Security. But please, whatever you do, rather than simply watch artificial intelligence as it evolves around us, and it will continue to grow, it will continue to evolve. Whatever your career, whatever your industry, please make sure that you use and you learn about artificial intelligence. Many videos on YouTube. Avail yourself of those tools, of those videos, because it's so important as we progress in our careers going forward. So thank you, Dr. Ireti, for bringing that to our notice. Actually, you did mention it, but I just wanted to back you up and emphasize that.
Yeah, good point.
You're welcome. So someone's asked, Mary's asked, is the CompTIA Security Plus necessary for GRC, especially if you have the ISC squared CC? So that's you, Dr. Ireti, again.
That's a very good question. Is it necessary? So my answer to that question is to first explain what CompTIA Security Plus is about. So CompTIA Security Plus is a foundational certification exam for cybersecurity. If you want to understand cybersecurity concepts better, which I always encourage people to do, then please take this CompTIA Security Plus exam. It's not in any way affiliated to any GRC kind of certification, or it is not in any way known as a GRC certification, but it's a certification that helps to build your cybersecurity foundational knowledge, which is very crucial in this field. I mean, you want to know more about incidents, risks, threats, vulnerabilities, controls, access management, cryptography, all security concepts, because even within the GRC space, those security concepts are relevant. Then please go for it. Secondly, most organizations, or a lot of organizations in UK, using UK as an example, when you submit your CV, they look at different things. They look at your skills, look at your experience, look at your certifications. Even if it's a GRC role and they've seen that maybe this person has CompTIA plus GRC related certifications, that may just be a booster for your CV. I'm not saying in any way that because you have CompTIA, you'll get an interview, but I'm just saying that those certifications kind of boost your CV because of, one, how solid they are in terms of, for you to have passed that exam, it means that you understand security to a very good extent. So yes, if you want to use it to also boost your CV and gain practical foundational knowledge in cybersecurity, then please take the certification by all means.
And could I add to that, please? Thank you for that, Dr. Ireti. Could I add to that, that again, if you're in a country where you cannot afford the CompTIA Security Plus, or if you're in that position, there's absolutely no harm in you going onto YouTube and watching full courses on CompTIA Security Plus and working with free software, trial software. So you can get 3 months of, you can download 3 months or a version of different security tools that may be mentioned in the CompTIA Security Plus syllabus. So you could be watching these videos and then toying about on your computer, playing with these tools, these security tools that they've mentioned, and then you put that knowledge on your CV. So don't wait until you've actually sat an exam. Don't let the absence of certification from your exam, from your CV rather, stop you from moving forward, from progressing. Acquire knowledge, because yes, some recruiters will put on their job spec CompTIA Security Plus knowledge certificate in CompTIA Security Plus, or certificate in this, certificate in that. But if you can also demonstrate the knowledge, I know so many people who actually don't have a single certification on their CV, and they've gotten jobs, including some that are earning more than me. So based on that, it's the knowledge that you need to pursue rather than just the certification. Knowledge is so important. You need to be able to go into an interview and demonstrate knowledge. not demonstrate certification. You need to demonstrate that you know exactly what you're talking about, which is why it's important to toy about with trial software, 3 months trials, download it or use it in the cloud. You've got Microsoft, Azure, you've got AWS as well, Amazon Web Services. They offer you free platforms to toy about with. So you need to make absolutely sure that if you can't afford certification, and in many cases, certification doesn't mean that you have the technical knowledge or the technical skills. If you can't afford that, don't worry. Just make sure that you're getting the knowledge from anywhere that you can lawfully, and then you're toying about so that you're able to speak to those skills at an interview. Yeah. Further questions? I think Dapo's got his hands raised. Let's try and unmute you, please. Could you kindly unmute yourself, please? Thank you.
Okay, good evening. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, good evening. I just have a quick question. You've partially answered the question I wanted to mention it in your what you highlighted just now. If I don't have, I'm pursuing knowledge, and I have access to some, and I have access to some, I have access to materials that are maybe on CISA or CISM, but I'm just reading to broaden my knowledge. Is it advisable? Because, you know, in this GRC thing, there are a lot of things that one needs to cover, all the frameworks, all the regulations. If one is reading just to acquire more knowledge, is it advisable, or is it one just, well, we won't be dissipating his energy on so many things at the same time?
So, okay, let me answer that question. So again, just like Mrs. Ibuku mentioned, you can, so what I normally advise, right, especially in cybersecurity, first thing first is to build your skills and gain knowledge, to be very honest. Certifications are validation that you have those skills or experience. However, not having certifications does not mean that you can't get a job in the GRC space or in cybersecurity. And I've seen that over and over again. The number one reason why we always encourage people to get certification, one, to validate their experience, that's one. Two, to boost their chances when applying for jobs, because we've seen a lot of things play out in terms of you applying for job, you having certifications and all that. If you don't want to start with certification, which I also advise, first thing is to build the skills and gain knowledge. You can use these materials that you've talked about, which is also important. But bear in mind that CISM, for example, are domain specific, and it doesn't specifically touch on some of these standards and frameworks. Instead, it touches on domains within security, within cybersecurity, right, or InfoSec. So if you want to gain more knowledge and your knowledge is around maybe ISO 27001, for example, then as much as possible, try to take maybe courses that can help you gain knowledge in those areas. So understanding what to take part-time that can help improve your knowledge is very important. That's one. Two, being able to not to be everywhere, because too much information can also affect you in this space. And I've seen that a lot. Understanding the right things that you need to learn, which I've shown you today in this session. You can't start GRC by trying to take every knowledge for a start. You need to understand some key areas, because when you go into some of those job description of a GRC person, some of the things I've shown you today are the things that you'll be seeing there. Knowledge of standards and frameworks, knowledge around policies, knowledge around risk management, vulnerabilities, compliance, and all of that. So getting those knowledge as a starting point is very key, and it helps you to be focused. You already know that this is what I want to achieve. Now, maybe for the purpose of preparing for certifications or practicing, then you can begin to look at CISM, CISA, and all of those ones that focuses on domain-specific topics that you can now need to think about. But first thing first, build your skills, build your knowledge to a very comfortable point. And then you can now begin to say, okay, if I want to do certifications. Another thing is that if you have a plan to do a certification and maybe you're not ready to take it now, you can also have it in your CV as in view. However, being able, not putting it there because you just want to put for putting sake, but having a plan towards that certification. It can be your CV as something that you're planning towards, but make sure that you have a definite plan to take it after a while. So those are like things that you can do. But again, first thing you need to know is you need to build your skills, you need to gain knowledge. And then as you do that, certifications can help you to validate those skills by saying that, yes, I have good knowledge or experience in this area based on this certification that I've done.
But thank you for that. Yeah, and I think I heard you say that at the beginning as well, that you need to prioritize what you're going to learn. So it's important that when you're considering a career in GRC, and I'm sure that this will be shared with you on the, when you enroll with CybariK, if you're considering a career in GRC, what's vital is that you make sure that you actually look at you identify your strengths, your inherent, your inbuilt strengths and your weaknesses. And then you choose whether you want to focus on risk or whether you want to focus on governance or whether you want to focus on compliance or controls, because although they're interlinked, there are some differences. There are different roles in each of those. So if you want to focus on policies as a governance manager, there are roles for you. If you want to focus as a risk professional, there are multiple different roles in risk. Then compliance is separate as well. So make sure that, whatever you do, you consider your strengths and your weaknesses. Don't just go out there and just try and actively take every single exam going, thinking that as long as I do this exam, this will get me a job. No, it doesn't work that way. It's based on your inherent strengths, your inherent skills, your inherent weaknesses, your inherent interests as well. Some people will say that they find risk boring, but they prefer governance. Some people may come from a legal background, and they will say, okay, that they prefer compliance. So please make sure that you identify what you're good at and what will interest you. So once you've spoken to Dr. Ireti, I'm sure that she will, share with you what areas, will suit your personal circumstances. Now, someone has asked this question here. I am an information technology services officer in an IT firm, and I don't have any background in computer science, but I have a certification in ITIL. Please, what other courses or ways can I improve myself in my job career? First of all, before I let Dr. Ireti answer this question, I'll say that I don't have a background in computer science either. And I've enjoyed a 24-year career in information security, governance, risk compliance, controls, whatever you want to call it. So please don't repeat that anywhere that, oh, I'm afraid I don't have a background in computer science, because Dr. Ireti has shared with us from the beginning the backgrounds of a few people that she's personally helped into GRC roles. And I know of some myself as well. So let's let Dr. Ireti answer that question, please. Thanks.
Okay, I think you've done justice to it. We're now in a time where it doesn't really matter your first degree, whatever it is, whatever course. I mean, even second degree, it doesn't really matter. The most important thing is what career are you interested in, and how much work and effort are you willing to put into this? I've seen someone transition from doing being an operations person in a bank to doing procurement and then becoming a cybersecurity senior consultant. 3 different areas, and the person is thriving now by doing that. So it doesn't really matter what your BSc is, where you're coming from, what you've done in your past life. one thing I've seen is that you can actually switch careers at any point in time. And most important thing is how much work and how willing are you to put in effort to get to this point. I talked about the person that came from an economics background. When she was wrapping risk management, I was really shocked. And the way she was talking about those infosec terms, I was like, wow. So you can transition to anything at any point. But the most important thing is you. How willing are you? How committed are you? People learn at different paces. Some people are able to pick things very fast. Some other people need some time to pick those things. But most important thing is, at the end of the day, how willing are you to make this transition? So as an IT person, you are doing IT service management or whatever now as a start of your career. Later on, you can decide that, okay, I want to move into cybersecurity, and this is the part that interests me. Or maybe I want to first become a system administrator and then go this route and become a cybersecurity analyst and so on. But the most important thing is you identifying where you want to grow into in terms of your career and what you need to do. What are the steps you need to take to get to that point that you want to grow into?
Yeah, thank you so much. And you can say that again. Many people, including new graduates, are simply moving into GRC because that's an area that is expanding, whilst many other industries may actually be retracting. So you can do whatever you want to in this industry, in GRC. And I always say, whilst many people, including Dr. Ireti, I think, may say governance, risk, and compliance, I prefer to say governance, risk, or compliance, because although they're interlinked, you can find a role in any of the three of those disciplines. You can find a role as a governance professional, you can find a role as a risk professional, and that is the one where there aren't a lot of people in it at the moment. A lot of people don't want to do risk. A lot of people tend to say, oh, it's too risky, or it may be boring. Yeah, risk is boring, but there are plenty of opportunities there. And then compliance, of course. So, just be open to whatever you will find suits your personal character, really. There's another question there. Is AML, that is anti-money laundering, or AML, and KYC, know your customer, within the GRC family as well? Again, I'll let you take that before I add.
AML is, so GRC in itself is particular to cybersecurity, right? An area that helps organization when it comes to governance, risk, and compliance. AML and KYC, I think in most instances that I am familiar with is around carrying out due diligence and all of that around financial regulations. They are the skills that you bring from AML and KYC is relevant in GRC. If you have those skills and you want to transition fully into GRC, it's more like a smooth and soft landing for you. Because again, you would have gotten some knowledge, very certain, around compliance, around due diligence, around risk management, and some of those processes. All you need is to transfer that knowledge and skills into governance, risk, and compliance. And what you find is like a handshake. So I always tell people that most times your previous skills and experience, you will most likely find them useful within the GRC space. Maybe few changes here and there, but there will always be like something that is that you'll find useful. So if you are doing AML previously and you want to move into the GRC space, yes, there's an opportunity for you to do that because the skills in a way are sort of related.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I agree with that. So AML and KYC, they're historically, one would have said that they used to be more broadly used in the financial services sector. But nowadays, anti-money laundering and know your customer is used in multiple sectors, especially the AML part of that. That is so important. So let's say that you want to buy a house, for example, or you want to actually start a job. When they do their background checks on you, they'll be looking at your credit history. They'll be looking at if there's any history with your bank, money laundering, things like that. So all of that comes under the compliance family, and know your customers related to the financial services sector. But it's so important that, again, that you hear what Dr. Ireti said, that your previous skills and knowledge and experience should be useful within the GRC discipline as well. If you've got knowledge of AML, KYC, you've got knowledge of accounting, you've got knowledge of finance, you've got knowledge of law, then that will be useful within the GRC industry. You've got knowledge of, for example, communications. Let's say you come from a communications background. Well, communications cuts across every single industry. You need to be able to use that as a soft skill that Dr. Ireti spoke about earlier, communications. So whatever your background, try and find a link to GRC, governance, risk, or compliance, and you will find it. Further questions, please? And if there are no further questions, then could you kindly move to your last slide whilst I just round up again, please? Thank you. Okay, not that slide, the previous slide, please. Thank you, about your academy, because as I said, so I've emphasized to everyone that the purpose of the ladder back down is to try and inspire and motivate Black professionals in particular to share skills and knowledge, to reach out to those around and coming behind us to ensure that not one of us struggles. Not one of us struggles at all. So that is the purpose of the ladder back down. We've met up with Dr. Ireti, and we understand that her vision aligns with my vision as the founder of the ladder back down, which is why we've put on this workshop today. Now, if you want to join the ladder back down Telegram community, or if you've joined already, because I see that a number of people have joined, I haven't looked at who has or not, but I see that a number of people have joined, then please make sure that you switch to topics view so that you can see the different groups in the community. There's cyber, there's GRC, please make sure that you don't just join as a club. You join, you ask questions, you post answers as well. Start from there, because you're within a community, so don't feel that you're going to ask a stupid question. Start preparing for when you'll move up to LinkedIn or onto LinkedIn, where you can start asking those same questions. But please, if you enroll with CybariK, you cannot be posting what you're learning from CybariK in the community, because you're essentially sharing proprietary information from CybariK. So make sure that you simply join, if you're joining CybariK, that's fine, but you just post or ask questions within the ladder back down. But please, if you do join the ladder back down, remain active, and please avail yourself of that vision. Try and align yourself to that vision where you want to be helped, but you also want to help others as well. You want to be helped, but you also want to help others as well. The community is opening up to allies in the new year. So because of artificial intelligence, we've had to expand the scope of our operations to invite allies from different races to join the community, and some have started joining. But please make sure that you're active there. And I'll just leave us with this last question from Lonso to ask Dr. Iretioluwa, and then I'll leave Dr. Ireti to give us the final words. Thank you. So the last question, have you seen it in the chat, or should I read that to you, Doctor?
Can you please read it? Thank you.
Okay, it says, hi, I come from a project management background. How can I leverage my existing skills and experience to transition into a GRC role in cybersecurity? And what specific knowledge gaps should I focus on addressing?
Okay, good question. Again, just like I have said in this session today, your existing skills are relevant in GRC. Project management is very, very, very relevant in GRC. So you don't need to throw away those existing skills. First thing is to begin to gain knowledge in your new career path that you found, which is GRC, and then begin to see how you can marry those existing skills to GRC. And I'll give an example. Within GRC, you can work as a consultant, maybe as a GRC analyst, but you're working as a consultant, meaning that you are supporting other organizations to align to best practice like ISO 27001, GDPR, and so on. Now, if you are doing that for other organizations, it's going to come as a project. So it means that you need to apply your project management skills from start to finish, meaning you have to ensure you go through planning phase, conducting gap assessment with the organization, ensuring that you remediate their gaps, conducting internal and external audits. Every phase is like a milestone. And of course, if you bring in project management expertise into that, you will probably most likely do better or thrive better than someone without project management skills. Because you understand that if I've decided that we need to achieve this phase within this particular time frame, and we need to have maybe these deliverables, you bring in your project management expertise and skills into that, and you try to use that to achieve what you need to achieve. So what am I saying in essence? GRC welcomes a lot of transferable skills. Your project management experience is very, very, very relevant. Today, one of the key things I do is project management, because I run an organization that is offering professional services. So I have to manage projects. All the projects that we are running within CybariK, I have to manage them. So I don't have a project management certification, but I have built experience in project management because I need that experience to be able to manage projects. So you see that GRC does not, it welcomes any skills that you're bringing on board. The most important thing is that how can you bring these skills and marry it with GRC? Now, what are the gaps that you need to address? The gap is the GRC knowledge you need to gain. So when you gain that GRC knowledge, you marry it together with your existing knowledge and skills, and then you just begin to move and fly with that. And with that, you can move later on, you can decide that another beauty of GRC is that you can do GRC today and decide tomorrow that you want to try another aspect of cybersecurity. There are rooms for that. I've seen people who started with GRC, currently they are SOC analysts in their organizations. You can decide at any point in time that this is what you want to do. I've also seen people who are like very, very technical, network security specialists for over 5 years, and the person said that, no, I'm no longer interested in doing this part. I want to do GRC. So you can decide any aspect of cybersecurity you want to do. You can start from GRC and decide over time that you want to move into cloud security, you want to be a SOC analyst, or you want to be a pen tester, and so on and so forth. So the field in itself is very versatile and welcomes you to make any of those kind of changes as you progress.
Thank you. And for those who want to follow you on Twitter, what is your, could we please see the, so if you want to connect and there's,
so Twitter is X, same name on
yes,
Twitter,
X.
Instagram, and TikTok. I have the same name there. So if you search for the same name, you'll find me there. My LinkedIn is my name, Dr. Iretioluwa Akerele, and of course, I have a website. If you want to know more about me, what I do, and check me out on my website.
Thank you so much. So thank you very much for your time, Dr. Iretioluwa, and thank you to everyone who registered and then has taken the time to actually attend. Please ask questions within the community, but nothing about CybariK, please. So please don't ask questions about how much it costs or anything from the ladder back down, because we don't have any knowledge of that. But make sure that you're active in the community. If you're currently working in GRC and you want to have any, or if you have any questions, if you can't ask them on X, formerly Twitter, if you don't have an X account, then you can ask in the community, and we'd be happy to try and assist. but we are not offering specific training like what Dr. Iretioluwa offers. So that there is a clear difference here. So the free training that we offer has got nothing to do with how to become a GRC analyst. You get thorough focus training with CybariK rather than with the ladder back down. Okay, thank you so much to everyone, and thank you so much, Dr. Iretioluwa. It was really a pleasure and a privilege to host you tonight, and I really hope that anyone that comes your way from this session actually gets to that position where they think, yeah, I mean, that was really worth it. I have heard from people that you don't know that I know who have said that you've mentored them into a career in GRC, which is why I reached out to you. But yeah, thank you so much again, once more. Thank you.
Thank you for having me today.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Like we can actually